Hey everyone, and welcome to yet the fourth episode on this amazing podcast known as Sammy and Eric in a galaxy far, far away. We are going to be once again your hosts, Sammy,
and Eric.
and today we have a very cool episode prepared for you guys. It was really fun to do this episode that we're going to talk about today. Definitely nothing like our last episode. As we said, we wanted to do something fun, something that was more in depth of what Star Wars really is. But before we get into
this is I think the most complex or the longest episode we
definitely
have made
this
until now.
This is totally gonna be a very fun ride for you guys. So make sure to buckle up and be ready.
Yeah, remember to share with your family, friends, anyone that likes Star Wars. So.
Yeah, your sharing will really bring us out there and will make this work we're doing pay off. And also, remember to comment down below for any suggestions, anything that you guys might think that we left out. And if you enjoy the content of our podcast, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and make sure to stay in tune with us. Because trust me guys, we love doing this and we love sharing this Star Wars content. Because at the end of the day, we are Star Wars fans.
And comment down below and give our recommendations and everything.
Exactly. Constantly be doing that. And well, without further ado, let's get right into it. You guys know we always like to do the verse of the day, and today it's no exception. And today's verse is actually one of my favorite, because it kind of portrays the reality of not only Christians, but every single person alike. And we can find this in John 16, verse 33. I'm going to be reading this off the New International Version, which is my favorite version of the Bible to read. And it says like so: I have told you these things. Jesus is talking here. So that in me you find peace. In this world you will have trouble. But take heart, for I have overcome the world. I love this verse so much, because this verse tells us the reality. You know, being Christian does not mean that we are going to be living a life of constant joy and troubles aren't going to happen. Being a Christian does not mean that the COVID-19 does not exist. Being Christian does not mean that there's not going to be suffering out there. As a matter of fact, Christians tend to be a very attacked group of people. But God tells us that to take heart, for He has overcome the world, and He will be with us at all times. And we need to trust and believe that God is going to be with us every time, because this is probably the argument that a lot of people have. Why does God allow suffering? Well, in that suffering, God is able to glorify Himself and lift you up and bless you in a way you never thought imaginable. But we must believe that He will forever be with us. And as we always like to say, Eric and I are both Christians. It doesn't matter if you are or are not a Christian. We always
it doesn't matter what you believe.
No, at all. We always love to give this word of faith because it's what we believe on. And even if you're not a Christian, you can learn something off of it, and that's what this is all about. And with all of that being said, let's get right into the reason why you clicked on the amazing title of this video. We are going to be explaining the Star Wars timeline. But first, what are we going to be focusing on exactly?
Canon. We're going to be focusing on Canon, everything Canon on this episode. And by Canon, for those of you, some people always, don't understand the concept of Canon. Canon is basically everything that was written originally by George Lucas. Everything that was written by another person, another writer, is not canon. Basically, long story short, it's the original, like the OG full story of Star Wars. So
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I'm focusing a little here the camera so it looks a little better for you guys. I noticed it looked like a little blurry. But yeah, what Eric said was absolutely right. We're going to be focusing purely on canon. We are not going to be talking about anything about the expanded universe or the comics because we honestly think those kinds of stuff deserve an episode of their own. So stay tuned. We might do videos related
I
to
mean,
all of
and
these.
if we did the comics too, this episode would be 10 hours long because we have a lot of
Yeah.
comics in between the movies.
Yeah, exactly. Like heck, in the movies itself, there are comics of what is going on in the
Yeah.
other side of the spectrum. So, guys, we will have episodes on the comics because they are extremely interesting, and we will also be talking about other stuff like the Old Republic, but not in today's episode because today's episode is already going to be long as it is. Like, we haven't even begun, and we are already 6 minutes in. So let's get right into it. Let's get into the
Yeah.
movies.
This is basically like a canon timeline based on the movies. Starting off with obviously the Phantom Menace, and the Phantom Menace. Well, it takes place I think 32 before the Battle of Yavin. So this is basically the problem with all the trade routes, to outlying star systems, the whole dispute thing, and hoping to resolve the matter. There are a lot of blockades of battleships, the Trade Federation stopping all shipping to some planets, including Naboo. And, well, the Supreme Chancellor basically in this movie just dispatches two Jedi Knights, the Guardians of Peace and Justice in the Galaxy, and they basically just settle all of these conflicts. But it doesn't end there because all of it, resolves in what becomes Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, exactly.
All that is, it's not fully resolved. It just goes on to be the Attack of the Clones, which is the second movie. And
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to be
timeline.
going right into that. So, in my opinion, of course, the Phantom Menace, it's not the greatest piece of work ever, but definitely a fun ride to go through. And knowing that it
It
introduces
was a
us.
movie that, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's
It was a
okay.
movie that gave success to the whole prequel trilogy. It was a movie that gained success and permitted the other movies to come out. It allowed George Lucas to keep making the other movies because it was a success. And we have a lot of there's a lot of things involving the comics that go just after the Phantom Menace, but obviously we're not talking about that. A lot of stuff of Darth Maul and everything, because he doesn't die actually in the movie. That's just an example of something that happens after the movie, but it doesn't have to do anything with Attack of the Clones.
Yeah, exactly. And we're gonna go right into Attack of the Clones. So, this movie is very fun to watch. So, as you guys know, we already have Anakin. Anakin was a child when we first saw him, but now we see him as kind of a teenager, you could say. And
Yeah, he grows.
yeah, he grows up, and there are a lot of new things going on in this movie. I have to say, there is the romantic aspect of it, where Anakin is falling in love with Senator in this case, Padme Amidala, and it's that love is starting to build up. But other than that, we have the actual important stuff. Like, we see that the whole Republic is going through so many stuff, and as a matter of fact, the separatists have to a certain level outnumbered the Republic, and therefore there was a plan of having an army of clones. But little did the Jedi Order, little did the Republic know that those Jedi were, oh, no, not Jedi, those clones were actually planned of Senator Palpatine. Well, not Senator, Chancellor. I'm fixing the movies up a little, but that's not an issue. So we see how this was all a plan of Darth Sidious in order to create his plan for the Republic to technically kill itself. And, well, we can get into more detail of that when we go directly into the Revenge of the Sith. But, beforehand, we need to talk about what happened.
This is an important part because the whole Clone Wars happens between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And obviously, those of you who saw Clone Wars, doesn't matter if you saw it, completely or not, there are a lot of events that happen here. Because I think this expands from, 22 before the Battle of Yavin to 19. So there's 3-4 years that are full of, of story. We have the first, we have a lot of things that happen here, including, the first Battle of Geonosis. Everyone remembers that. A lot of battles in different places. Here we see Ahsoka Tano, Anakin's new Padawan. So, and we see a lot of missions, including Jabba, and a lot of them we see Jabba, including the movie. The movie had in which they needed to save Jabba's son, which we didn't know he had a son until that moment.
And to be really honest, his son probably died at some weird point because we don't get any news from it.
Yeah, and it expands a lot because I think we have the first Battle of Deveron also there, the Battle of Doraine. We have a lot of battles that happen in the Clone Wars, which are important, very important. We have the third Battle of Camino. We have the, when they intend to assassinate Padme Amidala 2 times.
Which also was an attempt on Attack of the Clones, which I did not mention. Very important. The whole plot of Attack of the Clones is the defending of Padme Amidala, because they were constantly trying to assassinate her in order for Sidious's plan to fulfill. But, it appears to be that all the plans that they used to kind of annihilate Sidious's plan went kind of nowhere, because on the Revenge of the Sith, we get proven otherwise. I don't know if Eric was going to say something beforehand.
Yeah, and Clone Wars, actually, going back to Clone Wars for a little bit, it actually has so much stuff that you actually see even, the corruption of the Mandalorian government, which is something that doesn't directly, get involved with the movies, but it is something. That's so you get an idea of how much you get to see in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, the Clone Wars definitely have a lot of stuff to talk about, but we will, of course, not talk everything about it because we don't have enough time. And
something else, and I'm sorry that I keep talking about the Clone Wars. It just has too many, too much exciting stuff. So, but we also see Darth Maul, which he doesn't die in Phantom Menace, and people, we see that he survives the fall and meets with his brother Savage Opress. So we see that interesting, story of Darth Maul that it continues. So we get to see more of him. If you haven't seen the Clone Wars, you should see it, because at least on Darth Maul's side, it is very amazing to watch. You get to see more than that you get to see from him in the Phantom Menace, which is 15 minutes of lightsaber, duel.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, you
yeah,
definitely get way more of it. Now, as you guys may notice, we are not really going like in depth. We're not really gonna mention every detail. So if we miss some, make sure to leave it down below. But with that being said, let's continue. So we are gonna go straight up into the Revenge of the Sith, the best yet the saddest moment in the whole canon history. So, of course, we all know what this movie is all about: Order 66, Jedi's die, and all of that. But most importantly, we get to see how Anakin, even from the Clone Wars, he was starting to get tempted to the dark side, but not really to become evil, but because he was blinded and he had these visions about his beloved Padme passing out. I mean, dying because of having Luke and Leia. Of course, he did not know it would be Luke and Leia, but he did know she was going to be give birth, and he wanted to prevent the death of
yeah,
Padme. But it ended up all the way around. He was actually the reason why Padme ended up dying. But he did not decide to leave the dark side. He simply decided to stay on it with the constant, hopefully, future
yeah.
of
It
saving
has a
her
very
beloved.
tragic and sad ending.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I mean, this is, well, a weird addition to the, the timeline involving the movies. But actually, something that takes place just after this is Jedi Fallen Order. Those of you who don't know, it's a video game. And it's weird for us, even for us ourselves, to add a video game on this list. But it happens just after Revenge of the Sith, and it is something very important because it talks. The game I played it, and it is very fun because we have the story of Call, which those of you who don't know, he's one of the last Jedi, if not the last Jedi, from the Jedi Order to survive. Because we have Emperor Palpatine, who purges literally all of the Jedi in the galaxy. Tries to purge all the Jedi in the galaxy with Order 66. Obviously, he survives. You play as him. He is a Jedi Padawan. He joins up with some Resistance members. And given the chronology of the Star Wars timeline, we know that Cal can't ultimately be successful. So, and here we see a lot of the second sister, which hunts down, Jedi Seer. I'm sorry, which she is a former Jedi too, from the Jedi Order, but she quit also. And it is a very interesting story because at the end we even see Darth Vader, who, as we know, with the second and fifth sister, he betrayed the Jedi Order in a horrible way. So,
Yeah, I really did not play the Jedi Fallen Order video game, but I do know part of
it
this
just
story.
has a lot of ancient history. It revolves a lot around a lot of ancient Star Wars history, like very ancient. So it doesn't focus a lot on the whole stuff about the second, fifth sister, Darth Vader. But we do get a glimpse of what happened before the game, which is, he survived Order 66, whatever. And it is a very interesting game. I played it, and, I passed the story, and it is amazing. At least the ending, the missions. It is a well-written game. So,
Yeah, I definitely have to go ahead and play the game whenever I have time because it seems like a very cool game and it has a lot to do with Star Wars, we weren't actually gonna take in consideration the video games, but we thought it was right to make this one part of it. And with that being said, knowing that we have the beginning of the Imperial Inquisition, we can go straight up into Star Wars Rebels. Star Wars Rebels, we all know how the show began and we all know how the show ended. It was a show that it started off as a kids alternative for Star Wars, but it ended up very fun and actually covering a lot of how the rebellion came from being technically nothing to being the second most
Yeah,
powerful source
being
in
the big
the
deal.
galaxy. Exactly. That this one big group of people trying to take down the Empire. But it had a
And
very like vast process. And we also see Kanan Jarrus, one of the surviving Jedi, and he starts training Ezra Bridger into becoming one Jedi, which unfortunately we lose both of them. But according to the last
Rebels is
episode,
actually like Rebels is like a bridge, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, it's okay.
Rebels is like a bridge to like Rogue One and all of the stuff that leads to A New Hope. So
Mhm.
it's like a bridge to a new era. You know, it's like a bridge to what happens in the Battle of Yavin, which, as we all know, it's an important part of the timeline. So it is very important. Rebels actually. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a problem if you don't see it because it's not as exciting as the Clone Wars, I would say.
But I would definitely
But it is
recommend to
actually
watch
very
the
important,
final
so.
seasons. The final seasons definitely, because they give you a lot
Yeah.
of valid information that you can
Yeah,
use.
they have very important information. Yeah.
And well, with Rebels taking place and being over the way it is, this takes us straight to Jyn Erso and her friends over at Rogue One.
Yeah, this this is a separate. We know this is a separate story, but it actually takes place just after. After the whole Rebels thing, because I think Rebels is said to be around the year 3 before the Battle of Yavin, and Rogue One just takes place in the Battle of Yavin, literally.
Mhm.
So, and there's a backstory to all of this. It's essentially the catalyst story, which it takes place around 21 before the Battle of Yavin. This is before, I know, but it actually before Jyn Erso embarked on her fateful mission to steal the plans to the Death Star, which, I mean, that plot is amazing, I think. And, we get to see how she lived on Coruscant with her parents, Kaylin, and Lyra, I think it's how she's called. Anyway, Galen, which is her dad, is a scientist, he wants to use kyber crystals and do research on them to produce renewable energy for the galaxy, basically. But there's a thing here. We get to see a plot twist. His friend, our son Krennic, which is a very high-ranked general. We get to see how he's actually, Galen is actually helping create a weapon of mass destruction. So it actually has a very shocking plot twist. He's working so hard on the research for the kyber crystals, and then we see that he's actually working to create a mass destruction weapon. He's creating the weapon for the Death Star.
It's
And
essentially
that-
Mother Russia, but for Star Wars.
Yeah, and that is actually very sad.
Yeah, it is.
Because, it's sad that they keep hunting them down. But this is basically the start of Rogue One. This stuff that have, this is the backstory of Rogue One. it's, actually in the beginning of Rogue One, we see her living, with her parents on Coruscant, and then Krennic comes and it gets revealed that Galen is actually working for a weapon of mass destruction without him even knowing it. So it's really sad, and the fact that they hunt both of her parents down, it's really sad.
Hmm. And the way it ends, it's also a very sad experience. But again, we don't really want to spoil too much. So yeah, definitely watch Rogue
Yeah,
One. One of the modern
Rogue One
masterpieces.
it's a good movie, and it has some events linked. Again, we are not going to spoil anything,
Mhm.
but at the end, we actually see literally the beginning of A New Hope. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to be talking about right now. So, A New Hope, this is where it all began back in 1978, if I'm not misinterpreting it. Was it 1978 or 1979?
No, I think it was 1970 actually.
1970?
Was it nine? Wait, was it actually 19? I'm not sure. It was in the 70s.
Yeah, it was in
for
the
sure.
70s. We all know it was in the 70s. Back when George Lucas decided, hey, you know what would be a great idea? If we had a bunch of people with saber swords, with, spaceships and stuff. And that was the moment where the greatest saga on history was created. And here we have A New Hope, which is essentially the fourth film, time lapse wise, and the first film in time of creation. So this film is definitely alright. It's something that people have never seen before because no, Star Trek was not an alternative. They had something amazing. We all know how the Empire discovered that the rebels are flying around with the plans of the Death Star, and they're
Yeah.
trying to get them back because in those plans are also the way to destroy said Death Star. Um, and yeah, Darth Vader was going crazy looking for them, which, by the way, for those that don't know, for some reason, Darth Vader is like evil Anakin Skywalker, to put it that way. But yeah, I really don't know why I said that, but you never know. You never know if there's a girlfriend here, so I want to bond with my boyfriend, but I don't know in what. Well, here you have the smallest details you need to know. But yeah, so it's like a lot of things are
Yeah.
happening at the same time, but we get introduced to two very important characters: Captain Leia Organa and
Yeah.
teenager Luke Skywalker, which are both sons of Anakin Skywalker. And Luke Skywalker was to be found by Ben Kenobi, which was Obi-Wan Kenobi in the prequel trilogy.
Uh,
He was found as a hermit and was actually training him until, of course, some events happened before the destruction of the Death Star, which are unfortunate. Ben Kenobi died, for God's sake. I was trying not to spoil it, but it's way too hard not to. After that,
yeah.
we
Just after that, we get to see The Empire Strikes Back.
yeah,
That the destruction of the Death Star is actually the ending of A New Hope. That is, well, the infamous Battle of Yavin. And then, the rebellion just goes to hide somewhere. It turns out they are hiding in Hoth at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back, but that is, as I said, just after the Death Star has been destroyed, which is the Battle of Yavin. I think this takes place like 2-3 years after the destruction of the Death Star. But either way, the Imperial troops find them and pursue them across the galaxy. This is, and all this rebellion is led by Luke Skywalker, obviously. And Darth Vader, obsessed with finding young Skywalker, dispatched thousands of remote probes, in space and the whole galaxy to find them. and he eventually does find him and fights him, which actually, to be a very old lightsaber fight, I do like it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the lightsaber duel against, Luke Skywalker against his own father. That battle is amazing.
Yeah,
although it is very old, but I find it very amazing. It's my favorite movie.
I mean, yeah, it is my favorite movie as well. Not only my favorite Star Wars movie, but I can't say it's my favorite movie in general. It was such an amazing movie. And that perfect moment, Luke, I am your father. That about sums it up.
I am your father.
Like, that moment makes the movie such a great piece of art. Like, I don't know, if you don't like The Empire Strikes Back, go get a doctor. Go do something. Because honestly, The Empire Strikes Back is what defines Star Wars. It is the Star Wars movie, to be honest. And well, all of this stuff, knowing that Luke is the son of Darth Vader, which was such a big plot twist back at the original times of the original trilogy. Now we all know because we have the prequel trilogy, but people back then got extremely amazed. And let's not lie, Eric and I, were really excited when we first saw it. Well, all of this plot twist and stuff were to be added into the next edition, The Return of the Jedi, which, the title says it all. It is the return of Luke Skywalker and his friends to take over the galaxy in a very cool way. So, we all know what this movie is all about. The cute little Ewoks on the Battle of Endor. We also have, Luke Skywalker fighting with his father once again. Palpatine being all like, I won the young Skywalker. And it ended up, ending in his fate. Which, by the way, it's not his fate. But yeah, a lot of things are going on in this movie. But, we see how Han Solo and Leia Organa keep being such a good couple. And all around, it was not Empire Strikes Back good, but it was definitely amazing as well. And this is where we think the saga should have ended.
I mean, a lot of people may hate this, but what actually comes next is the new trilogy, the infamous new trilogy.
Yeah, man, the good times are over. The good movies, say goodbye to them. We're gonna get into the garbage pile of Star Wars.
And this actually has an interesting story. It's just that the movies didn't turn out as good as the older ones, because we have a change of director and everything. But this is actually very interesting because this is where The Force Awakens comes in, our favorite movie from the new trilogy. Mm-hmm. This takes place, I think like 30 years after the Battle of Yavin. And this is very interesting because this is where Luke vanishes, after Empire Strikes Back. And in his absence, the First Order that has, risen from the ashes of the Empire. It's like the new Empire, stronger Empire actually, because I think I've always thought that, Empire for life. I love the Empire, but the First Order has actually better firepower and better technology than the Empire, so it is very powerful. And so it rises in this movie. This whole First Order, it's like the Nazi Germany of Star Wars, you would say. So and with the support of the Republic, General Leia Organa leads a brave resistance. So she's just desperate, to find her brother Luke and gain his help, because then again they need to restore again the peace in the galaxy and set justice. But she sends her most daring pilot on a secret mission to Jakku, where an old ally has discovered a clue to Luke's whereabouts. This is where Rey comes in. The all new character that Kathleen Kennedy has tried to develop, but has failed because still some people don't know, are confused.
Which, by the way,
the whole character.
if you want to see the episode where we get more in depth about Kathleen Kennedy, you can go right into the description below where we will be leaving that episode, because my God, we ranted for a while.
Yeah, that was the third episode. That was the one that goes before this one.
Mm-hmm.
So just so you can know more about how she tried to develop and what she tried to do with Rey. So just watch that episode if you have doubts with the whole Rey Kathleen Kennedy thing. But yeah, we get this new character. She is desperately like same as Leia, looking for Luke. So it is an interesting movie because we get to see Kylo Ren, such a badass character.
Mm-hmm.
And he was even more badass in the renderings, in his original renderings.
Yeah, he was extremely cool.
Yeah, it is a great movie for the people who love evil, and that sounds crazy, but you feel empowered when you see literally the whole First Order, rise. It's like seeing the Empire reborn. So it is a great movie, better than The Last Jedi.
Yeah, definitely. Like, anything is better than The Last Jedi, to be honest.
Yeah.
But, well, this was definitely a great movie, but in my opinion, it is nothing more, nothing less than a great value version of A New Hope, and nothing can make me change my mind about that. But, let's face it, it was a good movie, it was enjoyable. But let's stop for a second, because we all know what everyone was waiting for. Like, Empire Strikes Back, no, what's that? No, bro. Everyone was waiting for the best, most amazing addition to Star Wars ever, the best thing ever. Bro, Rise of the Resistance, man. This is pure awesomeness, bro. Like this TV show, that, it deserved to be on the big screen. You guys, I'm just kidding. It is definitely an important show. I'm not saying otherwise, but it's simply not that good. I mean,
it's simply not that good.
Exactly,
but
it was more focused towards kids.
A lot of important characters.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
In the new trilogy, and it develops them really good.
Yeah, exactly.
So, as for character-wise and story-wise, it is very important and good.
Yeah, it is. And we see it's pretty much the same concept that they try to go up with Rebels, trying to show the development on how a small resistance built up to be what it was later on in the sequel trilogy. And honestly, the concept they had was very interesting, and it could have ended up being something very good, but it didn't end up that way. I mean, it wasn't bad. It really wasn't. It simply wasn't focused the same way Rebels and the Clone Wars were focused, and that kind of brought it all off. But hey, at least it's not the Forces of Destiny, which we are not going to bother mentioning. I mean, we don't even know where to put it in this timeline, so we're not even going to bother talking about it. So, take it off, my friend.
Yeah. So, essentially, just after the Rise of Resistance, in which all the characters get, fully developed, and then we get to the worst movie. I think all the people know what I'm talking about when I say this. I'm talking about The Last Jedi.
Dude, oh my God.
There are a lot of reasons why it is the worst movie, including the fact that, the story is very confusing. Again, Kathleen Kennedy ruined the movie with feministic propaganda. And if you're confused by that, again, go watch the third episode.
We literally addressed everything Kathleen Kennedy, so go watch that, really.
And The Last Jedi takes place, I think, just after. I think in the same year as The Force Awakens, and it actually has a very interesting story. It's just that the story, how it is portrayed in the movie, is not.
Yeah.
It is not portrayed in a good way. And this is where we see the First Order at full throttle, like at full power,
And it's
having
full
decimated
potential.
the peaceful republic. The First Order just decimates the republic, and Supreme Leader Snoke, which this is interesting because Supreme Leader Snoke is actually it's a very powerful and interesting character, but in the movie they kill him. They kill him like he's not powerful at all.
Yeah, they
Like
killed him
this-
almost the same way they
this-
killed Luke.
Yeah, this Rey
Sorry about
just
that.
comes and just kills so easily Leader Snoke. He had I right now I can't even remember what was his ship called.
I have no idea.
He had this
The Star Killer?
this giant ship. What?
The Star Killer, you mean?
Yeah. And so, yeah, we see his power. He has a lot of
God.
power, and he's, a worthy opponent for, to expand the story and everything. And as a villain, I saw him and I went like, whoa, he's cool and powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
But he got killed, and I mean, Kathleen Kennedy, as it seems, she doesn't know how to maintain characters. She just kills off every character that comes and pops up.
Every
in the
character
movie.
who's
She
not a
just-
woman. And if it is a woman, let's make sure her death is the most tragic one. Because
Yeah, but
why not?
it basically in this movie, Snoke deploys legions to seize military control of the galaxy. And so, the resistance fighters stand against the rising tyranny, and Luke Skywalker eventually returns. Everyone's just like, finally Luke returned and everything, but he dies in this movie. And I'm sorry to spoil all of you, but I think it's better for me to say it than for you to see it, because it
Yeah,
is very
definitely.
disappointing.
And yeah, it is a very bad movie. And to get that bad taste out of our mouths, let's get right into the final movie of all of this. Which we all know it's not the last movie, it's simply the last movie of the Skywalker saga. And it is The Rise of Skywalker. I do apologize, I have like a sore throat out of nowhere, but the show must go on. So, this movie wasn't bad. It wasn't perfect, of course. It wasn't. I'm gonna say very firm when I say that the best sequel trilogy movie was The Force Awakens. But, oh my god. I deeply apologize. Yeah, out of nowhere I just got this sort of throat. I don't know why. But yeah, we get a decent movie. Like, of course, we didn't got the ending we were expecting. We all wanted Anakin to come back, but
Yeah.
we did not get
We
that.
were all waiting for Anakin at least to appear in a scene.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
again, Rey gets all the spotlight.
Yeah, what we see in this movie is, one of the clones. Well, no, this one's not the clone. This one is like the actual Palpatine. Like, he did not die. He had a lot of clones to replace him. And yeah, the one who died was actually one of his clones, apparently.
And there are a lot of interesting theories that go on before this movie, like in between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. The first one, and I think the only one that's very shocking is that a lot of people were speculating, when they saw the trailer of Rise of Skywalker, when I saw the giant fleet that Palpatine had come up with, I was like, whoa, that is amazing. And a lot of people were giving theories that the whole time Palpatine was in the unknown regions, while all of this, like 3 movies in between, like 3 movies that Palpatine didn't appear, he was actually, there's a difference between, this is where it gets all mixed, because in the comics, Palpatine was supposed to turn in another body, in another different body, because the dark side of the Force consumed his body in the comics very deeply, and he essentially changes, body. It's like Venom.
Mm-hmm.
Venom picks a body and just takes over it. Well, that was Palpatine in the comics, but we don't actually see this because, then again, they mess up the whole canon thing. But a lot of people are actually expecting Palpatine to return in another body because it was in the comics and everything. But the most interesting theory that was the one that I was talking about was about Supreme Leader Snoke, which may have been controlled by Emperor Palpatine, because we do actually see, and I'm getting very deep into this, I know, but you can actually see in The Last Jedi in some scenes, you see Supreme Leader Snoke, and you see in his room, in his throne, behind you can actually see the guardians of the unknown regions, which these are mythical creatures. This is mixed. I think this is a good touch for the movie. One of the only things in The Last Jedi that actually amazed people was actually these guards of the unknown regions, because as you may know, the unknown regions is something that goes very far behind, to the Knights of the Old Republic. The unknown regions are a place of magic and a lot of mythical stuff. So that actually, they we don't know exactly when these guardians or where they are born, but we do know that they are from the unknown regions. And this comes to the theory again that Snoke may have used those guardians of the unknown regions to communicate with Palpatine, which Palpatine was exploring the unknown regions. And in the unknown regions is where Palpatine is believed to have had recovered, and he created all this massive fleet of Star Destroyers, and this is where he comes back at it again. So Snoke was like a Muppet of Palpatine. He was controlling Snoke all along for it to be all aligned in place. But it's just a theory, but it is a very interesting one nonetheless.
Yeah, so to finish this thing off, what we get in the Rise of the Skywalker, is how the Empire comes out of nowhere, which is the final order. We get all of this very interesting fights and stuff, but at the end of the day, the whole point of this movie is to see Rey becoming all the Jedi, and Rey being so cool, and Rey being Rey. And, the movie was not bad. It was simply not what we expected. But
yeah,
it is the way we got this whole saga finished. And with it, we have concluded this whole timeline, which, wow, it was kind of exhausting to do, not gonna lie. A lot of movies, a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But we are finally done.
And I'm sorry if I expanded a lot on the theory, but it actually explains how Palpatine came back, so.
No, but it's totally fine. Like, we are also going to be touching topics of theories, because believe it or not, theories in the Star Wars universe are actually, as you said right now, explain the origin of a lot of characters in a lot of scenarios.
Yeah,
And we need to
theories
talk
are
more
kind
about
of
them.
everything in Star Wars, and that's the good thing about Star Wars, is that you can expand the whole thing with more theories, and you can get everything out of this character and make another story out of this other character, and so that's the great thing about Star Wars, in my opinion.
Yeah. And well, with all of that being said, guys, that about wraps it up
Yeah,
for today.
thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to the podcast again. Yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah, and we know today's video was very long. Like, we're up to 50 minutes now. We've been talking a lot, I'm not gonna lie, but nonetheless, it was an interesting video. We discussed, we went in depth. What we originally thought to be simple summarizes ended up being full on in depth, going not necessarily on what happened in those movies, but the way they all connect into making Star Wars what it is. If you want more content like this, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and make sure to share with your friends and
Yeah.
family in order to make us.
Remember to comment
Yeah.
also. Like, that is very important for the podcast. Remember to, recommend topics or anything that we left out that you feel that was important in this episode, or in any of the other episodes. Just leave it in the comments below so we can fix it and feature videos or add it,
Yeah, totally. Well, with all of that being said, guys, as Eric said, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys. We love you immersively. May God bless you all. And may the Force be with you.
Force with you.
Always. Peace, guys.